Rain, rain, go away. Oh, rain, please come back. Welcome back. In today's video we have Audi A6 2012 2-liter TDI that has coolant leak. I have diagnosed this car earlier and coolant leaking from water pump. On this engine, water pump lives right behind the timing belt, so we will change the timing belt kit and water pump in one go. I start job by removing wheels and removing under tray, and right there I have my first stop on this bolt. Not long ago this car had a drive through woods in off-road style, so bottom bolts and under tray got some beating. My first try was to use Machtool's RBRT Allen key socket, but that did not work out, so I jumped to the heavier tools. So I decided to drill a bigger hole so I can put RBRT star key in. This star socket I also got it from Machtool's, with couple taps to make sure it sits nice and tight inside. And this did the trick. So this is the tools I used to get those two bolts out. Machtool's RBRT star set, Snap-on cobalt drill bit set. I use just one of them. Then drill, hammer, ratchet and extension. So here you can see how the star bit set gripped inside the bolt. So here you can see it's slightly in angle. On the Allen key you can see it better how they made it. Good tools. Next I move to the bumper bolts. Two of them came out easy, but then on the other side I got again rust. So this bolt is much smaller and I use grinder to make a groove and use a flat screwdriver to get it out as a regular screw. Works like a charm. Next I move to the wheel arch liners. I start with the bottom part, but if you guys ever do this job, I recommend you start with the top one, as it's gonna make your job much more easier and faster. There is a breather pipe attached to this bottom part that I did not see it earlier, so it took me time to figure it out. That's where it goes attached, so you might need it disconnected. On most cars, wheel arch liner is either plastic or carpet like this type, so it can be easily folded back rather than removing completely. So once liner is away, we get access to the bumper bolts. I start with removing this T25 torque screw, and then 10mm bolts for the bumper bracket. You don't have to remove them completely, but I prefer this way. So once this one screw is removed and 2 bolts removed, there's last 10mm nut right there to be removed, and that's all bolts removed from the inside of the bumper. I'm not gonna show you other side, so you just basically copy paste. This bumper support trim is secured by 2 plastic push fit rivets, and front part clips into the bumper itself. So once rivets are removed, just spray the front part upwards and it should come loose easily. There's 2 more screws that holds bumper that needs to be removed before bumper can be removed from the car. Once those are away, you can try to pull the bumper towards yourself. I put 20-liter bottle underneath the bumper so the bumper doesn't drop, as I need to just remove it slightly towards myself to get access to the parking sensor plug and headlight washers. In this part I clamp screen wash pipe that goes to the headlight washers to stop screen wash leaking out. Once pipe is clamped, I can now disconnect pipe securely from the headlight washers. And now bumper can come off. Next I move to the headlights, as though it also needs to be removed. The headlights are held in by 4 bolts. 3 of them you have to remove, and the 4th one just needs to be loosened up a bit and the headlight can slide out. So this is the last bolt. You don't have to remove it completely, just loosen up and the headlight will slide out. Let's not forget about headlight plug. That's one headlight out. Just copy and paste on the other side headlight. Next I remove the synthate duct. Once that is out of the way, we can remove timing belt cover. I did by mistake remove these two bolts, as I remember on some other car they needed to be removed to move whole front end away from the car, but on this car is not the case, so you can skip this part if you have exactly same Audi A6. Next I remove intercooler pipes. I use a screwdriver to let some air inside for easier removal. There's 3 bolts on each side on this cross member that needs to be removed. The bottom 2 bolts is harder to access as the AC pipes is on its way. These are the last 2 bolts that holds the whole front end, so before you remove them make sure you put something underneath the radiators so the whole front end doesn't drop and rip cables and pipes. Next I remove auxiliary belt. There is a rubber cover in front of the crankshaft pulley that needs to be removed to get access to the crankshaft bolts. To get engine into the position where we can lock it, we have to get this notch on this crankshaft pulley aligned with this dot on this cover. I will apply Tipex so it's more visible. So here's this dot and this notch on this crankshaft pulley is here. It is not recommended to go anti-clockwise, so I'll be turning the crankshaft pulley almost one rotation clockwise, so the dots can align. So almost there, and should be here. So once crankshaft is aligned, as we can see it here, now we can double check the high pressure pump that we have to lock it right there, and the camshaft pulley right here. As I don't have special tool, I'll be using these two 10mm bolts to lock these pulleys. As they don't fit all the way, I have to just turn the engine ever so slightly. There we go. And high pressure pulley. That should be good. Once engine is locked, we can now remove crankshaft bolts and remove crankshaft pulley. There are 4 10mm multi-spline bolts like this that holds front pulley in place. So here you can see pulley, and that's the notch that has to align with the cover. Now let's remove the front cover. So here we can see the arrow, the points where the crankshaft pulley should align. Now let's mark the pulleys. So this is gonna let us more easier to see once we're gonna install everything back together if they align properly. And last markings on the crankshaft. I start by loosening up the timing belt tensioner. Next, the bottom guide pulley. Followed by the upper pulley. And last, middle guide pulley. Once all these guide pulleys is out of the way, the belt should come out pretty easy. And last pulley tensioner. Let's listen to this water pump. Yeah, that water pump is shut. Water pump is held in place by 3 10mm bolts. The water pump should come out pretty easy now. On my occasion it gives some fighting. I would recommend put something underneath to catch all the antifreeze. Let's see what do we have in this timing belt water pump kit. So we have timing belt, middle guide pulley, upper guide pulley, tensioner, lower guide pulley, new bolts and nuts, timing belt sticker, We'll fill that in a bit later. And last but not least, the star of the evening, water pump. So let's compare all the parts. They look same to me. So this goes in a bin. And this is what we have to install back in the car. I put multi-purpose grease so the water pump slides better inside. Torque spec for water pump bolts are 15 Newton meters. Next thing goes middle guide pulley and guide pulleys torques is 50 Newton meters. And on top of that 90 degrees. I would recommend when you do degrees torque to do it everything in one go, but for video purposes I did it in multiple attempts. So that got torqued to 100 Newton meters. Now the lower guide pulley. The torque spec for this pulley is 20 Newton meters. Now the upper pulley with the new bolt. There's no specific way how to fit this pulley, so whichever way you fit it, it will be fine. I always tend to fit them any writings facing myself, and 20 Newton meters is a torque spec. And now the tensioner can go inside as well. So this notch has to fit into this slot onto the engine block. It will prevent from tensioner spinning. Now install the nut, but not all the way. I leave it tensioner slightly out. It will help me later install timing belt. Now let's fight with this timing belt. Slight free play here and there is a minor thing. As we're gonna tension it, it will straighten itself out. As long as it's less than one tooth, that should be fine. Now we can tie the tensioner knot finger tight. Use the Allen key to tension the tensioner. There is an indicator arrow on the tensioner that has to align with the cutout on the same tensioner. I'll show you in a second. Once that's been tensioned, we tie this nut. And the torque spec for this is 20 Newton meters. And 45-degree angle. That looks fine. So as you can see here, there's an arrow. It has to be in the middle of the cutout. And that's where the tensioner locks in and prevents it from spinning. Now we remove the locking pins. And turn the engine twice 360 degrees. And almost there. And there. Now we can check. So that's in the same place. This pulley is also same, and the crankshaft pulley is also in the same place. So that means engine is timed up correctly. Now we put back the cover. There is a locating pin on the crankshaft that has to align with this hole, with this pulley. It's right there if you can see it. Small pin. As we can see here, Tipex markings align with the crankshaft and the plate, so that means the pulley sits right. Let's not forget this cover, as if you put everything back together, then after it's gonna be a headache to put this cover back on without stripping the whole car again. Now the upper cover. As you can see, I put the timing belt sticker for the next mechanic to see when was the last time timing belt and water pump was changed. In goes back auxiliary belt. leave the whole front end and secured by these two bolts. As you can see here, if I wouldn't remove those two bolts from the back, I wouldn't need to put them back in, as that was not necessary on this front end. Now we secure whole front end. The bumper bracket, I put these two bolts back in just to locate it in a place, but I will not tie them, as you meant to tie them only once the bumper is on. Intercooler pipes goes back on. Headlight goes back in. This intake duct and front bumper. Now the inner bolts. Now we can tie these two bumper bracket bolts. And the last thing, this screw. Wheels goes back on. Now we can fill it with a fresh antifreeze. Let's start the car up. And this is the moment where my heart almost stopped and my spirit left my body. Where did I make the mistake? Let's look it back. In this moment here, where I'm putting this cover back on, you can see the bolts that I use to lock the engine are still inside. And why are they still there? I lock engine again to torque the crankshaft bolts, and I did not pay attention to that, as in my head I already removed them once. I knew I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep, so I did all job again with hope that I did not bend the valves or damage the camshafts or even kill the engine completely. I think I have to say thank you to the German engineers that they made this engine strong enough to withstand some mechanic mistakes. And on this we have come to the end of this video. I will remember my mistake for the rest of my life, and I wish you never make the same mistake that I did. I was lucky this time. Thank you if you watched this video, and if you enjoyed it, I would appreciate if you press thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as more videos with less mistakes are on the way. Your valued mechanic out.